Iraqi people and the deplorable conditions that they lived in. He thought a lot of the Iraqi people, and he was willing to go back because he thought we were doing so much good. Mr. President, that's exactly what Andy did. He went back for a second tour of duty in Iraq. Though he was scheduled to come back and live with his parents on April 1st of this year, he didn't rule out the possibility of going to Iraq for even a third tour. Throughout his time there, Andy kept in close touch with his family and his friends in the police force. Andy's last phone call home on February 24th was to tell his parents that he was scheduled to return home in about 4 weeks, just in time to celebrate his 25th birthday. The sudden and tragic events of February 26th devastated family and friends alike. Choking back tears, Police Chief Robert Antonelli remembers his last contact with Andy. This is what he says. I have a message from him on my answering machine. He was talking about buying a Camelback for the captain. He said he was okay to tell the guys, I love you, and I'll see you when I get back. Chief concludes, I will never, ever erase that message. When asked about the impact of the news on the Grand River Police, Chief Antonelli said, you ever see 29 grown men cry? You don't get many guys like Andy. He was the real deal. Andy believed in what he was doing in Iraq. He's a true hero. As Andy's brother Nathan said, the world's a lesser place right now. He made everyone around him better. Mr. President, members of the Senate, Andy's death has prompted an overwhelming outpouring of love and support. Perhaps best of all, it has prompted people to remember and appreciate the beautiful person that Andy truly was. Family and friends remember Andy's unique sense of humor. His fellow police officers remember how he would bring disco balls and police cruisers just to make his partners laugh, or how he'd bring smiley faces to jail to entertain the inmates. John Bechtel, one of Andy's good friends who works as a patrolman in East Cleveland, had this to say, there was never a dull moment with Andy. He never had a bad day. He never complained. He was always happy. I don't think I ever saw him mad. He had bought a computer in Iraq, and he was always downloading songs, calling me saying, you've got to hear this song when I get back. And he was sending me text messages somehow. I still don't know how he did it. Todd Carosa, an East Cleveland and Timberlake police officer and close pal, said Andy gave 110% as an officer and a friend. He said that Andy, and I quote, Andy was a unique person. He had a smile that was amazing. That smile will be stuck in my mind forever. Andy's friend Andrew Moore remembers all the particular mannerisms that made Andy so unique, so magnetic, so charming. In a heartbreaking and beautiful letter to Andy's family, he wrote the following. His laugh was so funny. It always sounded like he was a mad scientist or something. Andy had a walk that no one else had. It was more of a strut than a walk. The voice, the laugh, the strut, these were the things that made you find out who he was on the inside and become a friend of his. And once you were allowed into his world, you'd see and hear things that you only see in movies or on TV. He had these characteristics that movie executives pay writers millions of dollars to create. But he had them, and they were real. He was one of the most wonderful souls ever to grace this earth. A human being whom thousands of people loved strictly because of who he was. The President, family, and friends also remembers Andy's love of children and animals. According to his mom, and I quote, "When he first got to Iraq, the first thing he did was find a lizard. He must have carried that thing around in the Humvee for 7 months. He also had 4 dogs that followed him around there. He was like Dr. Doolittle. He once traded a case of Gatorade for chickens and a rooster. He got the chickens and a rooster because he was trying to get fresh eggs. He never got fresh eggs. Instead, he got little chickens." Mr. President, on March 7, 2005, a Mass held at St. Gabriel Catholic Church in Concord, Ohio, drew about 1,000 mourners. 1,000 mourners, including hundreds of police officers and Marines in dress blue uniforms from Northeast Ohio and Pennsylvania. An honor guard of 60 members from the 4th Marine Division Truck Company in Erie, Pennsylvania, where Andy was stationed before being deployed to Iraq, soberly lined the walkway into the church. The Marine line was bolstered by police officers, dozens deep. Andy's peacekeeping brethren, both civilian and military, saluted his arrival and departed with tears. 2 of Andy's fellow Marines helped carry his casket. They were joined by a Grand River police officer and 3 officers from East Cleveland, home to several of Andy's closest friends. The Reverend Jerome Dukes, the Catholic priest who gave Andy's eulogy, had known the family for years, officiating at the wedding of Andy's parents, Sheila and Denis, and baptizing Andy as a baby. Reverend Dukes said, and I quote, that Andy was glowing testimony of what it means to be merciful and a peacemaker. He shared his life and liberty with all of us. End of quote. Andy was buried with full military honors in the All Souls Cemetery in Chardon, Ohio. In honor of Andy, a Memorial Scholarship Fund has been established at Lakeland Community College in Kirtland, Ohio. The Scholarship Fund benefits students entering the Police Academy, Criminal Justice Program, EMT, and firefighter programs offered at Lakeland. It is expected to last in perpetuity. The fund expresses Andy's desire to help those who shared his love of humanity and public service. Andy wanted to give so that others might have the opportunity to give back as well. Mr. President, members of the Senate, my wife Fran and I continue to keep Andy's family and friends, especially his brothers Nathan and Peter and his parents Sheila and Denis, in our thoughts and in our prayers. The best comfort that we can give them is to remember all the good and joy that Andy brought into the world in a life that was all too brief. And we can also remember one of Andy's favorite sayings. This is what Andy said: "Smile. There's nothing to be unhappy about." Mr. President, I thank the chair and I yield the floor, and I observe the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.